We're going to start this session off with our very own Arinjoy Dhar, Senior Director of BRAC Microfinance Program.
Hi everyone, good afternoon. 2022 has been quite remarkable in many different aspects. So we have seen like COVID is ending, people are coming out of the poverty, and they're quite recovering from the losses they have incurred in 2019 and 2020 and 2021. And we can see the direct demonstration of that because we deal with people day in, day out. And consciously, when we were coming out of the poverty in early 2022, we have decided actually to disburse and include more people rather than scaling back, because there was a lot of concern about, if we give more loan to people, if we include more people in the financial net, whether people will be able to kind of pay us back because people are just coming out of the poverty. We actually went to the opposite direction, and we decided to disburse almost 26% more and include more people. And we have seen striking results today. Like 10 months in the year, we are seeing very, very, very good results, which is good for the country, good for society. So today I'm going to talk about women entrepreneurship, which is very close to my heart. I'm not an expert in this area, but I've seen this very closely. I'm very passionate about it. So Bangladesh has seen another remarkable progress in 2022, which is we have become the 41st largest economy in the world. And the way we are growing at the rate of 7.5%, 7.25% in this fiscal year, if we continue to grow at this rate, by 2030 we'll be the 26th largest economy in the world. So there's a lot of development that has taken place, and a lot of economic development has taken place that you have seen. GDP is growing very fast. But then when you look at the people, then you see what has really happened to the marginalized people. That is the real question. So this is a very favorite quote of mine from Abed Bhai. He said that I have met many defeated men in my life, but I have never met a defeated woman. And I strongly believe in that. So if we go to the next one, before we go and talk about the women entrepreneurship, let's understand the dimensions of financial inclusion in the world today. So we made some progress here in the last couple of years. It used to be 1.7 billion people who are underbanked or unbanked. Today it's 1.4 billion, so we have reduced it by like 300 million people in the last couple of years. But the striking number is like 55% of these 1.4 billion people are women. And that shows a clear gender gap here, right? And when we look into the numbers, the reason I'm highlighting this number is entrepreneurship is one thing, but just getting access to the financial system is another thing. So entrepreneurship is much bigger than just getting access to finances. So if getting access to finance or the financial system is so difficult, you can imagine how difficult it would be to start a business, and getting access to the market, getting access to the society, the marketplace, and getting support from the family, getting support from the community, and be successful, right? So from BRAC Microfinance, we have seen like a steady growth in number of people that we serve who are underbanked today or underserved today. And today we are serving 8.5 million people in Bangladesh, out of which 90% are women, right? That's about 7.5 million women. So they are basically getting financial access from us. We're giving them some business advisory. We're giving them, as and when required, some market access to the local market. We're giving them the support that they need at the local marketplace. Now, these are some of the pictures of the women who are our borrowers. And you can see, this gives you an idea, visuals, like what kind of business they do. This is not limited to only these trades, but this gives you like a snapshot. Now, the challenges that we see, I think the first two are very important to understand, that be counted, right? The challenges that we see day in, day out. I think the first challenge is be counted. So when we go and talk to women and we see the family structure, the society, and so on, the women are still, to a large extent, seen as an extension of their husband or an extension of the family, but we don't really recognize, we means the society as a broadly, do not really recognize them as a capable individual, right? So that be counted is very, very important. The second thing is the dignity matters, right? So if you go to the banks today, and if you see how many people are entering the banks, the people who are marginalized, they'll never be able to, or they'll never dare to enter a bank, right? Because they know that they will not be treated well. And we see that in different offices, even government offices, we see that in various business houses, we see that even in the banks, I've seen where in various parts of Bangladesh, where women, when they're standing in the queue, they're the last one to get the money, right? When the men comes in, even they're coming later, they get the money earlier because they have a voice, and they'll shout if they don't get the service, right? So dignity matters. Access to finance is a key challenge for women. Access to information is a critical one because a lot of policy that we see, a lot of support that we see, a lot of things that we talk about at an international level or national level, it actually do not get to the marginalized women. So they just don't know. So we talk about a lot of support service, a lot of policy support, but actually how much of that actually reaches to these women is really marginal. Access to market is a key issue. Just to give you some examples, I was visiting in a place a couple of months back, and I saw a woman who became successful in a marketplace in a remote village in Bangladesh. And in those places, normally the market, the other vendors or other shop owners, they're not very friendly to women, coming and opening a shop there. So they're very hostile towards, a woman who is coming and trying to get into a male-dominated kind of marketplace. So I asked her, how did you make it happen? What was your secret? And she told me, when I sat down there in the shop, first couple of months, my father and my brother and my husband, they were sitting with me all the time. And then over a period of time, then the people started accepting me. And then they realized that, it's not only me, my brother is sitting there, so there's a male there, my husband is sitting there, there's a male there. And then I got accepted, right, eventually. So access to market is a key problem. And the social norms. And we know that, when we go to the villages and we sit down with the women, we talk to them, and we see that, some of them are really bright, a lot of them are really bright, they're capable, they're not doing any business, though they have access to finance, through microfinance. And when we ask them, why don't you get into business? So their answer is our husbands or our families will just not let us go outside of the family or the family house and let us do business, right? So that is sadly still a reality in Bangladesh. And the last is digital divide. So we know that, though we have a lot of mobile phone penetration in the country, but only 40% people have smartphones. And if you look at the smartphone ownership, we have a huge, about 29% gender gap. If you look at the mobile phone internet bandwidth or connection, we have close to 50, 60% digital divide there, gender gap there. So these are the challenges that we have seen broadly in the market. But despite all these challenges, when you see, are people stopping? There are some women, a lot of women are coming up, and they are actually beating the odds. So I'm going to tell you some of the stories here. So this is the story of Shana Japa. See, she's our beneficiary since 1998. She started with $50 US. What is $50 US today? Like 5,000 taka. And her family she has an interesting background. The reason we picked her up, her story, the reason is we always think that, the people from the not so fortunate background is only the victims of, all these kind of problems. But actually she came from a very affluent family. Both her father's family and in-laws family are very rich. But then when she decided to take her own, start her own business, both the families did not support her. And she was determined, and she knew that she was capable, she can make it. So she has had some savings, and she took a loan from us in 1998, started her own very small school with 25, 30 students. And within a year, she turned it into a 300 student school. And within a period of 7 years, she started taking more loans and expanding the schools. And she became the owner of a couple of schools with 1,400 students, and she employed 75 teachers. But the interesting thing is, even after 7 years, and even after so much success, still her family did not allow her to do business, and they did not believe that she can make it even bigger. So she took the challenge, and she took it to the next level and started an online clothing store in 2019. And within 3 months, she had 30,000 followers. And she had really made it even bigger, And then even then, her family did not believe in her. And recently, she got into real estate business, which is very interesting because this is a very, very male-dominated industry in Bangladesh, as you know. But she just wanted to make a point that I'm not inferior to anyone, right? So these are the women who are our heroes, and they're, despite all the challenges that we have seen, they're beating the odds. This is Sharmin Akhtar, and this is another remarkable story. So Sharmin used to have a family of 5, including her 3 kids and husband. And she used to work as a worker in a soft toy factory in Tongi, near Dhaka. And the thing that got her into business is very interesting. So her youngest daughter was very fond of soft toys. And she actually could not afford to buy soft toys for her daughter. And then she decided to start her own factory. So her factory was like a 1-room factory, 1 sewing machine. She took a loan from us, about $3,700 equivalent to that. And she bought 12 sewing machines. And today, she is the biggest soft toy maker in southwest Dhaka, and producing about 14,000 soft toys per month, right? But how did she make it happen? Again, her story is very interesting because she did not only show the grit and the confidence and the bold decisions, took the bold decisions, but also how she got access to the market is very interesting. As I told before, like one of the factors, one of the challenges that we face, women face, is the access to market. So once she started manufacturing these toys, her main problem was how to sell it. She wanted to become like a supplier, not a retail seller. So she started visiting Newmarket and other areas where there are other male shop owners who can buy from her, but they just refuse to kind of buy from her because they believe that you're a woman, you just cannot be a manufacturer, right? You cannot maintain the quality and so on. So she did a very interesting thing. So she took her youngest daughter, and then she started visiting the shops and pretending to be a customer with her daughter. And then she started building relationship over time. And then over the period of time, then she, won the heart of some of the people. And then they started buying from her, saw the quality, and then her business took off. So the third story is like a very new entrepreneur. I met her like 2 months back. And then her story was she was helping her husband in a, they used to have an online bedsheet selling store. And the business was doing okay, and then her husband got a job, and he shut down the business. He said, we don't need to do business anymore because I got a good job. And then eventually, I think after 1 or 2 years, he lost the job, and they got into financial difficulties. And then she wanted to do business, but then her family and husband did not let her do so. And the things changed when her eldest sister gave her a smartphone. And then she started exploring Facebook and other online stores. And she found out all the places where she can buy at wholesale price and sell at a retail price. And actually, I was there on the day she got the loan, and she just took like $200, like 20,000 taka. And I asked her, why didn't you take more? She said, no, this is enough, and she was quite responsible financially. She said, this is enough for me to start the business now. And the way it is going, I can come back and take another $500, $1,000 later on, right? So these are the stories of 3 remarkable women. I just wanted to share with you guys, because you can see, despite all the challenges that we see, which is still a long way to go for us to solve all the problems, but there are women who are actually solving these problems and making it happen on the ground. Now, just to show you, these are the numbers. When we talk about the women entrepreneurship, a lot of women we support today, like 7.5 million women that I talked about, they borrow money from us, they do businesses. But a lot of these businesses are actually not registered in their names because of the taxation issue or other complications. But then women are coming forward and registering business in their own names. So now if you look at Bangladesh, we have seen about 574,000 business, about 500,000 businesses are registered in the name of women today. And we are very proud to tell you that 347 out of that 574 are actually supported by us. So and then, I looked into the numbers, how it went up in the last 10 years, you can see progressively how it is going up quite nicely. And we are quite confident that in the next 2-3 years' time, we can make that number 1 million women. So what can be done? Now, let me talk about some real tangible examples, some case studies or some use cases. So we are thinking about microfinance in a bit different way. If you look at her life, she is a farmer. And by the way, I looked into the number of female farmers in Bangladesh. It's a very, very high number, which I did not expect. So out of the 57 million active working population in Bangladesh, we have 18 million women farmers. And that's a really big number, right? So when we look at the farmers, today it's a cash-based economy for her. She's selling her, when she's harvesting, she's selling her crops in cash. She's getting back in cash. She's paying for fertilizer. She's paying for, seeds and all these things in cash as well. So she's living in a cash economy, and her access to cash is also limited to some limited options. So even if she wants to scale up the business, she doesn't have much choice. So think about an ecosystem for her. Like if we just imagine that there's a portal where you have the quality suppliers who can give the best information about the good quality seeds, the good fertilizers, and she can buy them online. And we can provide her weather-based, satellite-based weather forecasting. We can provide her the access to market through the portal, so she can sell her products online. She can get the digital money, and then we can take the information from her, all the purchase and sales. We can digitize that. We can underwrite that, and we can see how much loan we can give her digitally. So if we can move into that kind of ecosystem, I think that is the way to go. And basically, we are looking to kind of craft that model, but then it's a model where a lot of people need to come together, an MFI or government itself, or the bank or Bikash. Nobody can solve it alone, right? So it's an ecosystem that we need to build, and we need to kind of make it happen by bringing everybody into one portal, right? Similarly, if we think about a shop owner, so today she's selling, for example, toilet paper or groceries or teas, and then she's buying those things from other MNCs, like the van from, let's say, Unilever or Nestle. They're coming to her doorsteps and delivering some stuff. And she's also into cash economy. So her purchasing ability is actually limited to how much cash she has on hand. But imagine, like, if she had access to a digital credit instantly, even if she has 5,000 taka cash in her hand today, but she knows that if she can buy 15,000, she can sell it. So she's losing a lot of sales just because she doesn't have ready-made access to money and instant access to credit. So if she could have got the money, she could have bought more stuff for her shop, and her livelihood would have been increased much better. So again, we need to think about how to bring people from cash economy to digital economy through all these things. And the third one is RMG. We are also working on RMG sector, because we know that 4 million women are working in the RMG sector today. And a lot of them, they retire at the age of 35. And when they go back, they want to become an entrepreneur. They want to have some asset building so that they have a small home or small land, a small business. So just giving them loan or microfinance at that point in time help them to survive from paycheck to paycheck. But when you look in the bigger picture, a longer term picture, we need to actually help them to kind of build the savings, give them a business plan, teach them what to do when they go back home after 35 or 36. Because that's the average age. Because of the eyesight, they cannot work after 35, 36. So we are looking at that as a combined product where we can do not only provide the loan, but we also have the savings, we have the insurance, we teach them how to be an entrepreneur, and when they want to do a business, we give them access to market, connect with people. And we are also looking at the possibilities for this kind of entrepreneurs, can we get some products from the manufacturers at a discounted price? So, okay. Can you show the questions on the screen or no? Okay. This is really small. Okay, the first question is, how can we increase women's agency over their digital wallet? You mean you're talking about the merchant, or I don't know who asked the question. Okay. Oh, there's a very broad question. What do you see the BRAC Microfinance evolve in the next 5 years? What it will look like? More like a bank or something else? It's an interesting question. So we talk about it from time to time, yeah? So I think, BRAC Microfinance definitely have come a long, long way, as you can see from the number of people that we serve. But I think this is a time, actually, we are standing on a crossroad where we have the potential to become even bigger and cover more people. Because we combinedly, all the microfinance in the country, we cover 35 million people in Bangladesh. But if you look at how many people are still underserved, that's about 60 million more. So we have a long way to go, not only BRAC, all the MFIs, we have a long way to go. So BRAC Microfinance definitely will look not too different in terms of how it is structured, but I think if you look at the traditional way of doing microfinance, it was a very investment-heavy kind of infrastructure. So once we go to a place, we open a branch, you have to get the land or you have to rent a house, hire people, a lot of people. So it's a very, very resource-intensive, very, very capital-intensive kind of operation that we have today. So I think going forward, it will be a bit of a blending of online, offline. But then when you talk about online, we need to be also very cautious about the digital readiness. So the digital disbursement or digital realization of loans will only happen for the people who are ready for that. But there is a large population out there who are not ready for that. So we'll continue to have the human intervention for them. So the human intervention and the digital intervention definitely will go hand in hand. Digital will not replace everything tomorrow, but then we need to strike a balance, because as I said, when you go to the villages and sit down with the women that we serve, digital is still very far reality for them, right? When you talk to them about the digital wallets or e-wallets or even bKash, some of them just nod their head saying that, I don't know what you're talking about, right? So I think this is a long way to go, but I think definitely it will not look like what it is today. It will become a blending of online and offline. There's an intergenerational thing happening. Like we can see like 35% of our beneficiaries are now in the age group of 25 to 35. They are more digital savvy. They have more mobile phone penetration. They have internet connection. They're more digital savvy. So we are designing solutions for them. So we are going by the fact that people who are ready for it, let's do it for them. People who are not ready for it, let's continue to do what we are doing today until they are ready. Okay, how can we create gender-inclusive markets in rural communities? I think this is an interesting question. So gender-inclusive markets. So I think one thing that needs to happen is in the villages, especially, we have to respect the community and the norms. We cannot go and change the norms tomorrow, right? It's not going to happen overnight. But what can happen is, within the norms, and BRAC is known for, the adaptation, we go and we work with the community. We don't try to change the community overnight. We respect their norms, we work with them, and we try to understand what works for them, what doesn't work for them. So one of the examples I can give you is, when we go to the villages and we see that why women do not become entrepreneurs, is like they're not allowed to go outside the home. So when I ask the question, okay, fine, you cannot go outside the home, but if I give you a loan to buy, let's say, 5 cows, because the farming is something like, definitely it works. But then instead of 1 cow, if I give you like 5 cows, like a small scale farming, would you be able to do that staying at home? And they said, yes, we can do that, because our families will allow us to do so, right? So if we do so, but then we have to, again, connect the entire ecosystem. So it's not only just giving the money, we have to tell them where to buy the cows from, because we have an insemination program in BRAC. So we can connect them with that. We have a vet program in BRAC. We can connect them with that. We can also connect them with the marketplace to ensure that they get the right price, fair price, and all these things. So we are looking at things from that perspective as well, which will ensure the gender inclusivity. And also from another thing that we are looking at the moment is, there is a lot of wastage in the crops for the women farmers. So if we can give them a storage, because a lot of women do not get the fair price because they don't have the money to store the food, or they just cannot have a place. They don't have a place where they can store the food. So if we give them a storage where they can keep the food for a while, so the crops for a while, then and they can continue to do that for 2-3 months, maybe they'll get a better price. So we're looking at all these things from a rural microfinance perspective. Yeah. I quite did not get, to be honest, are we talking about the agency? Because we have like 300,000 agents for bKash, for example. So are we talking about, can we increase more women agents, or? Oh, okay, wallets, digital, okay. Okay, so if it is about the digital inclusion of women, so there are a lot of things. One is, as I said, they don't have access to phones. They don't have access to, cost is an issue. and also like, but for people who are actually happy to pay the price for the convenience, they're paying the price at the moment. We have seen a really good amount of digitalization, women inclusion in the digital payment space. At some point in time, our payments through digital went up to 35% during the COVID. It went down a bit now, but 35% was a lot because, and also like, it's coming out of the necessity as well. If you look at the garment sector is a good example. Before COVID, the women used to get salaries in cash. And only 28% of the garments workers, they used to get salaries through wallets. That 28% has become 82% in 1 year. It's out of necessity, right? So necessity drove a lot of things. But I think we need to work a lot on the economic means, because that's what I always say, that if there is a economic means, if there is a way that somebody will make money, and the digital inclusion will happen automatically. So for example, if I tell somebody in a remote village that you can sell your product online, I'll give you a platform, you can sell it, somebody from Dhaka will buy it, you'll get the money, and use bKash. She will do that, because she's going to get the money. But without that, without the economic purpose, I think that's not going to happen that fast. So we are trying to look into that. So we are talking about possibly, can you do like a engaging e-commerce for women in the vulnerable communities, in the remote villages, the climate change affected areas, who has something to sell, they have something to offer, but they don't have a marketplace, and they don't get the fair price. So if we have a social e-commerce type of platform for them, and we can link bKash with that, that will definitely work. So it has to be connected with the economic means. Yeah, thank you.
Up next, we will hear from Sudhan Gurung, president of Hami Nepal. Sudhan is a grassroots mobilizer who has done some inspiring work on engaging the youth in volunteering, starting from the Nepal earthquake to the 2020 COVID response. Hami Nepal stands for, translates to We for Nepal, and Sudhan will speak on the very apt topic of leveraging grassroots movements during emergencies. Love to invite Sudhan to the stage.
Okay. This is my first time doing a presentation in my whole entire life. So I have no idea what this is. I have no idea where I'm staying. This is my first time encountering people like you. So I'm mostly on the ground, I'm mostly on the ground carrying sacks, doing some cleaning here and there. And actually, that's the real me. So as you can see, guess who? That's me. Now this is me. I know I look different. I don't look like that. That was like 5 or 6 years ago, I guess. So people used to call me Lionhead, Porcupine, give me weird names. I used to be there. Okay. So I used to be a DJ. Actually, this is my background. I used to be a DJ, and I used to party, and life was all about having fun for a youth like me. It was about earning money, traveling, and partying with friends, shopping, taking weird pictures, posting it on social media, and whatnot, This was me. So I was never serious about, helping people or social work or, government. We really don't care at that time. That's a fact. That's the truth. So this is me. But everything changed there, right? Sorry. So yeah, people used to call me the Goku of events. Look at that hair, right? And on April 25th, 2015, everything changed for me. 7.8 magnitude earthquake hit Nepal. We lost many lives that time. And this changed me. It's not forwarding. All right. Around 12,000 people lost their lives, 5,000 homes and temples were destroyed. And just a day before, it was Friday. So I was having fun, I was DJing, having drinking water because I don't drink. So yeah. And yeah, I was having fun. And all of a sudden on Saturday, you see people dying, crying, no hands, no legs. It was the exact opposite of the life I was living. It was totally different, And I uploaded a status. I went to volunteer in a hospital nearby, and I uploaded a status like this. I was quite popular, so you can see that there's 895 shares. So you know that I'm popular, right? Now, right? Anyways, and those are I call out for volunteers, and those are some of my friends who said they would help me in the hospital with me. The next day, 200 youths showed up. Unexpectedly, 200 youths. On the third day, 600. By seventh day, we had around 1,600 volunteers all over the hospital, looking after the entire hospital, cleaning, doing management, and we were all youths, young people. We had that energy. We wanted to do something in our country. We wanted to help people. We just didn't know how and how to do it. So that's the time we had around like 1,600 youths volunteering without any medical knowledge, all right? I don't have any medical background. I don't have any medical background. I don't know the medical terms. But if you ask me to carry that man to the bed, I can do that. We all can do that, right? So we youths united and managed an entire hospital. We looked after the doctors. We looked after the patients, So we assigned 2 volunteers because victims used to come alone. The survivors used to come alone. They didn't have any family there. So we used to assign 2 volunteers 24 hours. And I used to tell them, it's your job to save that person. It's your job. He or she might be someone else's mother, daughter, anyone, and it's your job. And they used to do it very well. They used to clean them, look after them, give them food, water, and everything necessary, So, yeah, we used to clean the hospital, and there was a scarcity of blood. We used to manage blood, and together we called ourselves Hami Nepal, for the people and by the people. So we are talking about the future of development in post-pandemic world, so I don't want to go much into details about the earthquake, so I'll just jump into COVID-19. We all know what happened that time. It was 2 years back, right? So even my country faced the same problem like yours. Lockdown in a landlocked country. At least Bangladesh has ports and you guys export things. But being a landlocked country, Nepal, we import things. We import everything. We import needles, we import literally everything. I think there's only like 10 or 20% of export, rest of it is import. So imagine the impact, the problems Nepalese people faced that time. We didn't have gas, we didn't have food, the shops were closed, we didn't know what to do, the unknown virus was unknown. Yeah, unknown virus was unknown. We don't know about what the virus was, right? How it might affect us, it might kill us. And we were scared of people, we were scared of our own families. If they go out, we used to be like, oh, okay, she just went out. Man, she just went out. Go, stay away from her, That's what we used to do, right? Discrimination. A lockdown in a lockdown country. And the government response was reckless, It was pathetic. And we used to see that, the only thing we used to do was watch Netflix and chill and use our social media, right, at that time. So we used to see this in social media. Quarantine. That's our quarantine facilities. That's a baby and a mother sleeping right next to an unknown guy. One of our friends took the picture as well. And that was the situation in our country. We even heard the news of news of rape inside the quarantine. And all we could do was just sit there and watch it on our social media. Just use our, just scroll, 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 scroll. I was so tired. I was fed up of seeing things like this. On top of that, Nepal, you know our country very well. We don't have good health facilities. We don't have well-equipped hospitals, government hospitals as well. And guess what? Back. News of corruption. Imagine, you cannot save a life with money, right? Do you agree? Right? We all agree, right? If you're a billionaire and if your mom is lying there and she's taking her last breath, you tell the doctor, I'll give you everything and save this person. Save my mother. Will he be able to save your mother or father or a family member? No, right? And in a time of a crisis like this was our government. Corruption in mass. They were buying 300,000 worth of carpets, buying helicopters, buy food for the people, make a well-managed quarantine facilities, look after your people. That's the reason why we gave them votes. But it was not done by our government. And we faced shortages of hospital beds, which was so obvious. A country like us, Nepal, we faced, people used to, when we used to use social media, we used to see everyone looking for beds. Do you have beds in this place, and that place? In every hospital, people were searching for hospital beds because hospitals were overwhelmed with patients. The scarcity of oxygen again hit us. We all did face that. Have you carried, okay, let me see hands up, all right? Who has carried an oxygen cylinder? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, okay. It's heavy, right? It's pretty heavy. So yeah, this is what we face. We did the same thing, right? And situation was similar to earthquake, but this time we could not touch the patient. We could not touch the victims. And that's the only knowledge I had gained from my earthquake days. Taking the patients to the hospital, here and there, but this time I could not touch them. I didn't know what to do. I had no idea. I didn't have any PPEs, I should touch the patients with my bare hands. I was like, if it's my day, it's my day. Just forget it. So this was the challenges. So what did we do and how did we respond? The youths of Nepal, how did we respond? We were so eager to come out of our house because looking at the scenario, looking at the situation, and looking at the incompetent government, we protested. Enough is enough. We took the initiation to lead the biggest youth protest in our country, urban youth protest. And we raised questions and fingers to our government telling them, you are incompetent. And this even led to a hunger strike. It was a month-long protest, and even me, who eats dal bhat. Do you guys eat dal bhat? Right? Dal bhat power, 24 hour, right? So yeah. So a person like me who eats like 4 plates of dal bhat, I love dal bhat, I had to stay on a hunger strike because I couldn't see my people die like that. I wanted the government to answer, and we protested. And when we protested, the government did respond to us and sat on table talk with us and signed a contract which was not implemented. And people died. We saw people die. People were still dying, and the protest was unsuccessful. We were unsuccessful. The urban youths of Nepal, though we protested, we were unsuccessful. And the lesson I learned from that was like, don't wait for someone else to do it. Do it yourself. I could have saved so many lives at that time instead of protesting, I guess. That's what I thought. And I asked my team, okay, what is the solution? The discrimination is going on in our society. People are like hating each other. People are like, beating the shit out of them, beating the doctors. They used to discriminate everyone, right? So in a situation like this, we heard about a plasma. You guys know about the plasma, right? No? Plasma blood? Yeah, great. So plasma, we got to know about the plasma because plasma is taken out from the patients who are recovered, COVID patients who are recovered, and that can help the patients who are in a bad condition. It will help them. So that's plasma. So we established the first plasma bank of Nepal, and we helped around like 3,500 COVID patients. We used to beg people, tell them, please give your plasma. We'll give you pick and drop facilities. We'll come to pick you up, we'll drop you, we'll give you apples, we'll give you fruits, we'll give you this, that. Please, there are like 3 people waiting in line for your plasma, and you can be a hero. We established the first plasma bank in Nepal. So we were able to set up 270 beds in just 3 days in the new hospital, new COVID hospital. We were able to set up new COVID wards in different hospitals and help them with medical equipments. And we were the first organization and youths to import oxygen cylinders in our country. We chartered a flight, and when there was a scarcity, it was a peak time of a scarcity of oxygen. And at that time, we were able to import 520 cylinders. And this time, we worked with the government. We worked with the government, and we were able to distribute it right then and there from the airport. We didn't even hold 1 cylinder to ourselves. We just distributed from the airport. That's the picture of the airport, right? And Star Hospital oxygen crisis. We got a call one night, in the middle of the night. And it was the HOD of a hospital called Star Hospital. He told us, can you help us? I'm the HOD of this hospital, and all of my patients are in high flow oxygen, and our plant has crashed. So within 2 hours, we need oxygen cylinders. Can you help us? I had no idea what to do. But there was no turning back. There was no turning back. Someone asked for help, and there were 57 lives were in stake. How do you say it? In stake, right? Yeah. I had to save them anyhow, and I called all of my friends. I called the police, I called the APF, Armed Police Force, I called Army, I called my friends, I put social media videos, and I told, if you have a cylinder, please bring it to me, or I'll come to pick you up. And at that time, we were able to arrange, by 3 hours, we were able to arrange 47 cylinders, and we were able to save 57 lives that night. And it was the youths who did it. We even established oxygen concentrator bank for long term. And the long-term solution is mass vaccination. We were able, youths like us, look at us, we don't have any medical background, right? But we were able to make Manang, which is one of the district, it's in far remote area, we could make it the first fully vaccinated district of Nepal. People like us, youths like us, we can do it. And we have done it, see? And we even protested to save a hospital. After coronavirus, haven't you guys learned anything, is my question to our government, The need for a hospital, the need for the infrastructure of the hospital, haven't we learned enough? Haven't we faced enough? That's why we organized a protest called Save Gopa Camp. It went for 6 months. It's just been 1 month, I think the protest has ended. This is the pictures of that place. And the most important thing, transparency. Donors and everyone looks for this. They question us. They always, when they give money, they'll think twice, They'll see, is my money going to the right place? And it's our job to make transparent. It's our job to give them respond. And it's our job to assure them that we have used your money in the right place and have helped the victims or the people, and it has directly helped them. Look at the bill. You can see the bill. in our website, and we have even mentioned the contact number so that the donors can confirm. You know, so next time these donors will donate more. We can help more people. We can save more lives. You know, transparency is very, very important. And the lessons that we've learned, the power of social media. Your phone is very, very powerful. We need to use it properly in a positive way. Use your social media in a positive way. When there's a need of you in this world to make changes and save lives, use your social media power. Gather everyone. Unite your friends and influencers and celebrities. You know, use that power. And don't wait for someone else to do it. Do it yourself. When you have 2 hands and 2 legs, you can do it. Why wait for others? You're seeing the problem in front of you and you say, please, can you put him on the chair? No. You are responsible for him. You need to put him on the chair. All right? Don't wait. And the importance of ambulances. It's very, very important, you know. We don't have, in our country, we don't have A-grade ambulances. And people used to die in their homes. They didn't even get to see a hospital bed. People used to die just on the road, you know. So that was the problem. So I saw the importance of ambulance is very important. Importance of improvising healthcare facilities and transparency, obviously. So challenges, what did we face? Okay. Volunteer retention. How do we, how do we unite all these selfless volunteers who wants to volunteer for long term? How do we do that? Because they have their lives, they have their future. You know, they have to work, they have to look after the family. How do we do it? We have a solution for that, and I'll tell you in a while. So what is Hami Nepal doing right now? Right now we are doing civil rights movements. We have started our Hami Nepal ambulance service along with electric ambulances in the plain areas. Emergency blood arrangement. If you call us in the middle of the night, I need A positive blood, we'll be there. That's for sure. Hami Nepal will never disappoint you. And we do immediate response to natural disasters according to need assessment. We just don't go there with a sack of rice and throw it and take a picture and just come back. We make sure that they get what they need, like mattress, or let's say if they need a tent, we need to first ask them whether they need a tent or not. How many families, how many victims, you know? So that's how we do it. We do it quite differently. And right now we are also doing act of kindness, small things where people need financial support. And making our Hami Nepal website a platform to unite all the youths who wants to, who wants to help but don't know how. Most of the time, what happens to us, like we want to do something, we want to contribute to our society, but we really don't know how. You know, where to contact? Is it going to be transparent? Will it be effective? We want to make our website a platform to all the youths and make a movement for change. That's what we want to do. The future plans, we want this. And believe me, we'll make this happen. Believe me, we'll make this happen. Because Nepal is, it's a hilly region. We rescued a pregnant woman and her child because of a helicopter. If a helicopter can save one life, one mother and a daughter or a child, imagine if we have a helicopter, a rescue helicopter, how many lives we can save. And we will make this happen. That's our plan. So in order to volunteer retention, right? You guys remember volunteer retention. So these are the companies that we have created. Bubble Glamping, it's a transparent hotel where you can see the stars and sleep. We'll be giving jobs to our volunteers in that resort. Camp Mate, since we know how to camp, being a volunteer in different places, we have thought of giving camping service. And Sojilo app is a POS app which can be used people with small business skills, people with, let's say, if you have 25,000, you can start a business. It's a business management app. So we have created this. I think it'll be ready by 3 months. And international expansion. We want to go beyond our borders and help people. That's what we want to do. We want to launch our website in different countries. You know, just imagine if there's a crisis in, let's say there's a crisis here. There's an earthquake here, or this building just collapsed. Imagine if there are volunteers who are alerted automatically around this area to help, telling them that there's a need for you. You can go there and help them, you know. That's what we want to do. We want to launch our website all over the world. And yes, cross-border, just hold on, okay. Cross-border collaboration. We can share our concept. We are not like those people who think that, okay, it's my concept, it needs to be with me. You know, you can, if you need any help, if you want to share our ideas, if you want the, let's say, the concept of the website where the volunteers are alerted, you know, where the donor, where the transparency, let's say about the transparency section, you know, we can share our concept. That's what we can do. Okay, time's up. Thank you. That's Hami Nepal. What is this? Questions? Okay, Ashif, typically voluntary effort are not organized. How do we manage this better by proper coordination so that it's not limited to photo or impactful scale? So first, typically voluntary effort are not organized. Yeah, exactly. You know, we need organizing and mobilizing many youths without experience. It's very, very hard, you know. And on this, we face with challenges like we need to show the donors about what we have done with their money, and at the same time we don't want to look, you know, like those those people who show off that they are doing something good for the society as well. You know, that's a big challenge. So mobilizing volunteers, you need to make a plan first and divide them into different groups. First, you need to list down the names of the volunteers. Then what you need to do is like list out the work that needs to be done. Then you just assign them into different groups. It's very easy, you know. That's how I used to manage my volunteers. I still do that. Any other questions? Okay, I think that'll be it. All right, thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. That's us. That's Hami Nepal. We are a youth-led volunteers, a youth-led movement, and we are SOS volunteers. If you say that you are in problem, we don't see race, we don't see skin color, we don't see anything. We just see humanity. Thank you.
So now, on that same thread of inspiring communities to work together, inspiring groups of people to come together and make things, our next speaker is Richa Shrivastava, Managing Partner of Makers Asylum, India's first community makerspace focused on fostering innovation through purpose-based learning. During the COVID lockdown in 2020, Richa and her organization managed to make over 1 million face shields for frontline workers in 49 days, proving that manufacturing does not need to create a compromise between scale and doing it locally. Richa's talk is titled Make It Local, Digital Fabrication for the Pandemic Response, and I'd love to invite her to speak to us.
That was pretty impressive, Sudhan, for like a first presentation, I have to say. Don't you guys agree? Pretty difficult to top that up, but I'll try. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what I do back in India. I run a community makerspace called Makers Asylum. We are now in this beautiful state of Goa, so that's our space. It's inside a 100-year-old Goan Porto house, which we've converted into a makerspace. And I'm going to talk about what a makerspace is as well for people who don't know. Oops. Okay, okay, you guys have to move, I guess. Okay, we started back in 2013 out of a little garage in Mumbai and Bandra to create a space for people like ourselves, artists, engineers, designers, to come together, share tools, share space, and make things. So you can imagine it to be a space for open experimentation. And it started, honestly, when the ceiling of my partner's office fell down and broke all the furniture, and gave us an opportunity to call people to make furniture with us. And that's how the community kind of started. So a makerspace, this is how it looks like. It has anything from a woodworking workshop, a metalworking workshop. We have a digital fabrication lab. These are laser cutting machines. A lot of architects, a lot of designers use this to do a lot of 3D visualization. We've got 3D printers. I don't know if anyone seen 3D printers? They're very special tools. Can go from ideation to making very quickly. Then we have a lot of electronics, virtual reality. So anything at the intersection of hardware, design, and programming is something that we love kind of integrating, sort of interdisciplinary technological solutions. And the space is kind of this conduit for anyone to come. So it's open for anyone to actually come and access. So when we started, what was happening was a lot of people were really interested in coming and making, but did not know how to use these tools. So the space kind of became this organic space for, education and learning. And we started designing a lot of workshops and programs with our mission of creating a space of learning by making. And Sudhan's previous presentation is a great segue into my presentation because it's all about doing it yourself. And it kind of really, the space really encompasses that mission of really building that maker mindset where you become conscious problem solvers, right? And you have the skills to actually make things happen. All right, so, So yeah, these are some examples of some of the programs that we've been doing to enable youth. This is our flagship program called the SDG School, which is designed for community-led innovation where youth can actually come in to learn how to start contributing to the SDGs. We've been doing this program with a lot of partners, including UNESCO and others, and we've hosted this in various parts of the world as well, where intercultural and interdisciplinary youths get together to actually work on these problems locally in the context of local problems that they want to solve for. We also work with a lot of teenagers to actually enable them with real hard skills, technological skills, so that they can actually go from ideation to actually making things that matter to them. And these are solutions that they can make for their mother, their father, their help, or whatever. But taking them through the whole cycle of innovation of how you can go from thinking about something to actually tangibly making them. So yeah, so slowly we started kind of like growing from a physical space to designing these workshops and programs, and the alumni started kind of like growing. Now we have alumni through our programs in over 30 countries, and the space has also kind of become this really exciting space for innovation because we also really enable a lot of communities and people to, work on their projects that have become this really exciting innovation projects as well in India. Okay, sorry. Yeah, so these are some of our partners that we've been working. So a lot of partners across different countries. You can move next. Oops. And yeah, we've also enabled a lot of startups in this space. So this space, while it's kind of like this open space, has enabled a lot of people to actually think about their ideas and make it happen as well. So anything from, you can see that industrial robotic arm that started about 10 years ago. These guys went to Y Combinator, now a $50 million worth of company that came out of Makers Asylum. So it's kind of like really amazing to see if you give people the space for creativity, what they can really do with it. So now, I think in the last almost a decade of our existence, we've kind of graduated to working at the intersection of education and open innovation, and really enabling and driving social impact and conscious problem solving. That's what we've been doing. But I'm here to talk a little bit more about what we did in the pandemic. So just like everyone's story in the pandemic, our story was also kind of like really interesting. It was almost a post-apocalyptic world scenario for us as well. So the story kind of starts on the national lockdown that happened in India on the 23rd of March, 2020. And just like everyone else, we also had to shut down our space. We were in Mumbai at the time, and we had this really large space where we used to host people and paying a lot of rent. So we had to like shut that down just like everyone else. But what we did differently was instead of going back home, we quarantined at the asylum. So our team decided we're not going to go back home. I'm going to stay at our space and see what we can do. Because, it would be really boring anyways to go back home, right? So that's how we kind of started. And then we started seeing this news of this massive PPE crisis. The government was kind of like putting out a lot of requests of what they wanted at the time. And one of the things that kind of came across when we were looking at this news was that there was the need for face shields was on number 3 of the government's list in India. So they were trying to procure face shields, and that was number 3 on the list. So we said, okay, fine, let's maybe use our tools and start prototyping face shields maybe in our space, because we had this laser cutting machine, we had the 3D printers. We're like, okay, fine, let's see if we can do something. And this was interesting. So we had no funds, obviously. And we decided to kind of like start this crowdfunding campaign. And between Vaibhav and I, we had discussed a goal of 1,000 face shields for the campaign, because we knew between the 3 of us, we could only make 1,000 because there was no chance we could make more than that. But I thought, when I was uploading the campaign, I was like, maybe we should make it 10,000 and let's try doing it. And when I did that, my entire team was really upset with me because they were like, it's impossible to make 10,000 face shields between all 3 of us. We can't make it. We just can't, And then slowly, this whole maker community that we'd built in the last many years, who are doers, who are people who want to solve, they started coming in. So we had this volunteer group who used to come to our space and make shields night and day. We were making shields from morning to evening, 18 to 20 hours a day, just making shields every day, right? And these are all the folks of the collective who came in. We went through 21 design iterations. Now I want to emphasize on the slide, because we started literally with a paper prototype at the bottom. Can you see that paper shield at the bottom? That's how we started making the design of that face shield. And eventually it looked like this. The left, the one which is the injection molded one. We went through so many design iterations to understand material, what can be used inside a hospital. We went to doctors to actually take their feedback in the middle of the night to understand how can we make this for you. Because at the time, there was no way that you could actually, figure out how to make it. So the doctors were actually giving us real-time feedback, 21 design iterations for a product like a face shield to actually make it, usable in an environment like a hospital, right? But there was still a massive choke supply chain in India. You couldn't move these. Even if you made them, how would you move it to different parts of the country, right? And we literally had ambulances and police officers standing right in front of our lab waiting for face shields because they all needed it at that time. You can see there's this massive, need for it. And it was really overwhelming because to see people wanting this and we were making it and we couldn't transport it to other parts of the country. So one of the things, because it's a frugal innovation forum, I want to really talk about this part. This was really beautiful discovery in the whole process. We found out that foam board, which is available in most parts of the country for marketing materials, you use those hoardings, etc. This material is used for that. It's waterproof. It does not absorb anything. It can be used very beautifully to actually design things. So we chanced upon this foam board. And that was like a massive discovery in this whole journey because it really changed the way that we were looking at this problem statement. And then the other thing that we did differently was instead of keeping all this information to ourselves, we started sharing and open sourcing our designs to everybody in the country. We said that, hey, listen, if you have a laser cutting machine, if you know how to use it, you can make these anywhere in the country. And interestingly, India has a laser cutting machine in every village, town, and city in the country because, again, it's used for marketing material and things. You'll see laser cutting shops in most remote places in the country as well. So these two things kind of led to a really beautiful journey then. So we started then putting this information together because we had this beautiful crowdfunding campaign where people were requesting for shields, where people were funding us to, distribute it to hospitals that needed it. So we started creating these self-sustainable local ecosystems where we were connecting these laser cutting shops to the maker community. Now, the maker community are the people who understand technicalities of building. to funding bodies who wanted to support local hospitals, and then to the frontline workers who actually needed them. So instead of doing all of that by ourselves, we were creating these local ecosystems in different parts of the country where they were self-sustainable and they could actually function and create and serve locally. And that was, I think, the most beautiful part of this initiative, because a lot of people then started joining us as part of the M19 initiative from different parts of the country. It was really beautiful. Eventually, we had 42 cities, towns, and villages who became part of this national collective of M19. And we were able to go from 0 to 1 million face shields in 49 days. And that was a moment of, understanding how frugal innovation, collective intelligence, all of these words that we listen to kind of really come into practice, because it really happened in front of us, Like the coronavirus curve, the M19 collective curve was also exponential, because we were able to contribute together. And this, I think, is one of the most humbling moments for us, because we started the initiative with the thought that, we're going to make 1,000 shields or 10,000 shields or whatever. And then you see this graph. One of the volunteers made this graph. It's a distributed graph. You see the yellow line in between? That's Makers Asylum. We were consistent. We were making stuff, and we were like, the mothership that was kind of like going and going and going. But you see like the blue lines, the orange lines, and people who started making more than us. And that's when we realized the beauty of, this whole collective, the sharing of this ecosystem was that, we were doing so much more. And in the words of Navi and Jaideep, who are the authors of Frugal Innovation and Jugaad, we were actually doing better with less. And that was the beauty of this whole, part, which was, I think, the most humbling experience for us. These are some of the pictures of all the volunteers and the frontline workers, wearing all our shields, and it was beautiful. And it was a very surreal moment for us, honestly. And it was also very interesting that the whole group of volunteers that we had were interdisciplinary in nature. There were chefs, there were filmmakers, there were photographers, there were actually doctors who were actually working with us on building these at, where we were. And the youngest member of the M19 collective was a 13-year-old who made 300 face shields for his local doctors in Gujarat. So, it was anyone could do it, and that was the thing, right? And there were over 300 volunteers. It went on to become this case study. Cambridge wrote about it. A lot of people wrote about it internationally. But the interesting thing was that most of the people who that we were looking for funds for were looking to support centralized, manufacturing system. We were talking about decentralized manufacturing. We were talking about open sourcing and sharing, and there were hardly any takers. We went on to make various other products like baby shields, like active respirators, and many more things. And then cut to the chase, then the second wave happened, right? Fast forwarding to that. And one of the things that was needed at the time in India was oxygen. Interestingly, we again went to the same thought of, thinking about how could we make local indigenous oxygen concentrators in India. And we started, we called for the M19 collective again and started doing this open research around how to make oxygen concentrators locally. Interestingly, we were able to make 30 prototypes of the oxygen concentrators in 4 weeks because we were able to collectively work on the research and development of this project. It was not a patented idea. It was open for anyone to contribute. And in 4 weeks, making an oxygen concentrator, that's pretty difficult, given that it's not an easy product like a face shield. And that was only because we were able to do this collectively. This is the M19O2 in its final stages. This is the fourth or fifth iteration. This is a high flow, high LPM oxygen concentrator, about 2 LPM, 95% concentration that it gives, completely open source and made by the community for the community. Okay. And then various organizations were able to make their own prototypes from this, from this open research that we did. So a lot of small manufacturers, large manufacturers took this research and, made this as well. Do you see that one over there? That was made in Bangladesh, by the way. So from the same research. And that was the maker community in Bangladesh who was actually making the M19O2s over here. So, and then there were some exciting organizations who understood the need for decentralized manufacturing and what we were doing and supported what we were doing at the time for the oxygen concentrators. But then again, interestingly, India was actually importing a lot of foreign oxygen concentrators at the time because obviously the crisis was crazy. And interestingly, what started happening was a lot of these concentrators that came to the country started breaking down because of issues of design, tropicalization, humidity, and things like that. So now this abundant knowledge that we had as a collective about making the oxygen concentrators, we started to use that for repair and reuse, which was this other part that we started doing with the support of the European Union. So we started actually hosting repair camps where we could, fix these concentrators and actually train more people to, do this locally. Interestingly, where we are in Goa, it's a beach town, and there are a lot of scuba divers. And scuba divers know exactly how to work with oxygen because that's what you need to actually go down for diving. So we have this whole group of scuba divers who could actually help us with repair, and you could use the transferable skills of the community to actually solve for so many things, right? And then we sort of created this decentralized, open repair ecosystem, and Yeah, so I have 2 minutes and I have two last slides. But the crux of my presentation is that to really build back better, it's important that we empower our local communities with the skills that they need to, respond. The last 20 years of the global maker movement, as we say, this whole niche community of makers who love doing things, who love making stuff, honestly encourages this alternate thought on sharing and, actually taking action. And I think as the problems are becoming more complex, we need to fuel this alternative thought in our communities so that they can solve hyper-locally. And I have one last slide, which is amazing because this data point is something that I want to leave you with for food for thought. So these are statistics done by Open Source Medical Supplies. This is a non-for-profit organization in the United States. And they did a survey of the maker community, this unorganized maker community across 86 countries. After the first wave, this maker community was able to contribute $271 million worth of PPE to the global healthcare ecosystem, which is absolutely not a small number. $271 million worth of PPE that was used by doctors, that was used in hospitals. 48.3 million units of PPE were delivered by this 42,000 plus citizen responders. So there's a whole power in collective, community-led innovation. And that's what I want to leave you with. So thank you so much for having me. It's been such a pleasure to be here at BRAC in Bangladesh. Do I have a question? Okay, great. Okay, what about the initial investment? Like I said, we had no money. So we literally, we started crowdfunding the campaign with people who kind of understood what we were doing. Just like how Sudhan was talking about social media usage, we were able to actually put out these really random videos of us making these shields and, asking for help that, guys, we want to support the frontline workers, please help us. And honestly, a lot of people started kind of joining the movement. At the time, there was nothing happening in India. This is the first week of lockdown. People were not on the streets of Bombay. People were in their homes wanting to do stuff, but did not know where to contribute. And we had this, initiative where we were actually building stuff and they were seeing it. And people really helped us in that first round. I remember in Bombay, there was not one single person on the road. It was so deserted. I've not seen Bombay like that in my life. And because we were making these shields, the police officers had actually given us a free pass to roam around the city. We could go across the city in like half an hour. That's never happened in Bombay ever, So it was really surreal. It was like a post-apocalyptic scenario. And for makers like us, that's a scenario that we live for, a post-apocalyptic world, because that's when you can use your tools to actually make things that matter, right? And that's what we were doing. And it's not about the funding, honestly. I think one of the most important things that we did in the campaign was to understand what the cost of this face shield would look like, right? We included the cost of human resources. We included the cost of the space that we were using. So we had this minimal cost that we could, actually raise funds on. And so it was, INR 55 rupees for making a shield. to support us as well in terms of, actually making it sustainable. So even in the collective across the 42 cities, towns, and villages, people could actually raise funds by saying that, okay, each shield is 55 rupees, and, these many shields we'll make and contribute, and they got something out of it as well to sustain themselves. So it was very kind of thought from that perspective so that more people could actually replicate that model and actually make it as well. Yeah, so that's, hopefully that answers your question. Awesome, so there's no more questions. So thank you once again, everyone, for listening. It's been a real pleasure being here.